And welcome to the Priggya Arora Show, where we discuss law, innovation, and entrepreneurship with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, founder of PA Legal, an intellectual property law firm in India. And today we have Mr. Jack Zhu with us. He is the CEO of PatentPal, and we welcome him on the show. Welcome, Jack. How are you doing?
I'm great, Priggya. It's great to see you, and thanks so much for having me on the show. I looked at some of the other folks you've interviewed. A lot of familiar names came up, so I feel like I'm in very good company. So very honored to be here. I saw Gene Quinn, and I remember taking the patent bar and watching Gene Quinn's lectures, and Ryan Schneer was on your show as well, and he's one of our really great early customers as well. So that's awesome to see so many familiar faces here.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jack, for your time. And we'll directly begin with your story so that audience will get to know you also. So please tell us your story and how did you become the person you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up playing a lot of computer games, probably more than I should. I didn't realize like this was kind of an uncommon thing until much later in my life, but I was, I think very early on, as soon as computers came out, by chance, by luck, my family bought a computer, on one of their business trips. And so I had a computer as early as grade one, really. And so as a kid, this was incredible. I, was tinkering around, all the time and, playing games with my friends. And, in elementary school, I actually built a video game of my own very early on. And, that eventually went to a science fair. It was a video game that taught students so for me, I immigrated to Canada from China. And so English was my second language. And, I understood the struggles of learning English. So I made this game that taught other students how to learn English. So that actually won, I think, a silver medal and some cash prize as well. So I was really happy at the time. But yeah, so I did my undergrad in computer science. It was actually an interdisciplinary studies on computer science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. It was a really unique program, actually, one of the first of its kind up in Canada at the University of British Columbia. As I was exploring, this really fascinating field, my dad also had a background in programming. And so he always advised me, not to, get into programming as a job because you'll be staring at tiny lines of text all day long and, wear your eyes out. So I took his advice and I went to law school. And a few years later, I became a patent lawyer. And every day I'm looking at tiny little lines of text. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, so I did my law degree at Harvard, and then I came out to Silicon Valley right away. I was just really excited, especially given my tech background, to be at this intersection between law and technology.
Yeah.
So I started in patent litigation at White and Case, and then eventually switched focus towards doing more tech and less law to patent prosecution. As I'm doing the work in patent prosecution, a lot of the inspiration came about for PatentPal. And so far I've been building PatentPal for the last 4 years, and we recently launched our product, beginning of this year. And recently we just, as of last week, had our first PatentPal patent approved by the U.S. Patent Office.
Absolutely amazing. So it's a journey. I always think that people who are practicing in patent law, they are engineers first and then lawyers. So technology is very, very close to them because I think engineering was our first field of education, and then we switched to law and sometimes back to engineering because it's all engineering. I think when we apply, like especially in patent drafting and patent prosecution, 70% of our work is related to technology and only 30% is related to law.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I felt. So I know you had an engineering background before law, and that's the same story with a lot of patent attorneys. It's really quite a fascinating space to be in. With litigation, I would say patent litigation is about 50-50, technology and law. With patent prosecution, it's very much like 80-20, mostly technology, and 20% law. At least that's how I felt. And then with patent power, it's almost all technology, and then a little bit of law.
Little bit of
So
law.
that's kind of been my journey.
So, Jack, you have worked as a patent attorney into litigation, drafting, prosecution. You have like tasted waters of everything. So, what were your daily struggles, especially in drafting and prosecution, that you thought like, okay, technology is there and probably we can solve this problem using tech. So, what were your struggles at that time?
Yeah, I was new young associate, right? And I really, there's a lot of being a patent attorney that I really love. I think it's really one of the best jobs out there. It has amazing hours. You have a lot of control over your time. I think it's actually really unique because even in the engineering world, not many engineers get to work with such a wide spectrum of new technologies. I don't think many other professions really have such a interesting lens on the world of innovation as a
Yeah.
patent attorney actually have. So that's really fascinating. I love that about my job. I really enjoyed claim drafting as well. I think that's a really deep lawyerly art. When it comes to the spec drafting, and I don't think this is at all a secret in our profession, there's quite a lot of mechanical writing involved, right? And I did a lot of spec drafting. And part of that really baffled my mind was that these are really really smart professionals, right? And the patent work has been in this way for so many years, and it's really like smart people spending decades of their lives doing a lot of this mechanical writing, right? And so that was really the inspiration. So I wrote a program that automated about 30 minutes of what I used to do manually with a single click of a button. And I was just hooked, right? Like this is very much the future. And I don't think, and I'm very far from being alone in this. It's like I talk to patent attorneys all the time now, right? And it's so common for me to see a patent lawyer who has tinkered with software, who has applied some of the technology that's being developed into their own practice. There's all sorts of products that patent attorneys have built themselves, really. And so with PatentPal, our effort over the last 4 years, mostly spent on research and development, has been to really target the core of like that mechanical writing. And so far, we've been able to solve quite a large chunk of it.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, I am with you on this, especially the boilerplates. It is very difficult to, adjust the formatting and everything according to what are the requirements. Specifically, if we deal with many jurisdictions, for example, the font size requirement in Australia is different from font size requirement in US. Font size requirement in Europe is different from than in India. So I think all the jurisdiction has different font sizes, different space alignments, and everything is different. But the crux, what we write in the claims are the same at least. So I think all these tiny, tiny aspects are something which can be taken care by the technology, and we don't have to look into the law of every country to switch back just to check, oh my God, what is the font size in Australia? What is the margin alignment in Australia, and then come back to our draft and adjust it according to that law and then submit it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really helps to have the right tools to free up a lot of or thinking power on the things that matter, like writing great claims, working with the client, strategizing on building great portfolios of IP. And there's tons of little details, tons of formality requirements that technology can do a great job of solving. And then for us, like with PatentPal, really our core is on solving the mechanical writing piece of it, right? So not only like adding boilerplate language, but also all of those phrases that we write like in one embodiment. The computer
Yeah.
may include this device and so on. Writing it into that non-limiting prose.
And another thing that comes to my mind is like when we teach patent drafting to people, we have to tell them, okay, we can use this language of may instead of is. Instead of the present language. So if we have
Hmm.
tools like this, at least they'll read the application and they'll know we have to use the language consisting can or may instead of the general English terms that we use in the essays and everything.
Yeah, for sure. It's a certainly a great learning tool, and I've had emails from very long emails from law students who have been playing around with tool and finding it helps them write better claims and also gives them good guidance on how to write the specification.
Correct. So, Jack, can you give us an overview how automation helps in patent drafting?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the most obvious factor, right, is that it's an efficiency tool. It automates the work, so it saves the lawyer quite a bit of time. But I think the real value of it, it's not so much what the software is doing, but it's what it's enabling the lawyer to do. At the end of the day, what an efficiency tool does for the lawyer is it improves the quality of the attorney hour. So that hour that the lawyer spent is, if it's not spent on doing mechanical writing, it's spent on doing the other things that matter, right? Talking to the client, strategizing, claim drafting, writing the key embodiments, describing the alternate embodiments, and being really creative about how to frame the intellectual properties to give it the most scope and the most protection, right? So, I think one of the misconceptions about automation that our industry sometimes is concerned about is like, is this going to, reduce the price of, lawyerly work, right? I actually don't think that's necessarily the case. As part of increasing the quality of the attorney hour, it means that lawyers are now producing higher quality legal products. That means a faster time to production, right? Being able to draft more quickly, being able to get a patent on file more quickly, being able to write patents that meet the formality requirements more consistently, higher quality patents overall. This ends up being a superior legal product that actually would command a higher price on the marketplace.
Correct. And Jack, I also think product like these help in the sense like sometimes we tend to miss stuff, like something we have explained in the claims, but probably some small element we'll miss to explain in the drafting. But if we have tools like this, it will make sure that every element is explained properly in the specification.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of takes care of a lot of that 112 written disclosure support for the claims. I think you made a good point about that because that can be it's easily fixed, right? But it's one of those things that can be a headache in prosecution.
Correct.
You cannot add new subject matter after you file a patent application. And certainly you don't, if you can, you want to avoid a conversation with the examiner to explain why this claim element is in fact supported, right? That's just time that is, that could be spent, more productively to move the patent application forward in the prosecution process.
Correct. So, Jack, currently, I also think that most of the tools which are available, they focus on specification or proofreading or drafting specification, helping the attorneys. Do you think that the future is like AI could help us draft claims as well? And all the like, if we tell some of the elements properly, then the claims are also drafted. The reason I'm asking again is the interoperability, because for example the CRM claims, which we say computer readable medium claims, they are valid in US, but in India we cannot file them. We have to file them as a product or a process claim only. So
Mm.
because the jurisdictions are different, so do you think that in future AI would be able to help us with the jurisdictions or drafting of claims and things like that?
Yeah, so yes and no, right? So, I think yes, in the sense that, like, first of all, in today's world, there are many of the tools, including PatentPal's tools, already are helping with claim drafting, right? I think claim mirroring is a pretty common, software feature where it takes one claim set and it generates similar, equivalent claim sets, but casted in the framework of a CRM claim or a method claim or a system claim. With the PatentPal tool, one of the feedback we get from customers is that, if you write a really great set of claims, PatentPal will help you save a lot of time on writing the specification. So it actually very interestingly incentivizes the drafter to put more focus on the claims because they no longer have to, spend the same kind of time on the spec. And so that has actually led to users really going into the claims, fleshing them out more, spending more time on the dependent claims, and writing better, higher quality claims overall. So tools are already helping with claim drafting. Whether AI can, for example, generate claims, right? I think that certainly is possible, at least at a basic level,
Yeah.
right? So I don't think it's that far from the future that an AI tool can really dig in and understand the substance of a disclosure document and put together some basic claim that's a starting point for the lawyer to work with, right? But ultimately, I think claim writing is, having done it myself, is a very deep lawyerly art. It requires an understanding of the competitive landscape. It requires an understanding of the client's business interest. It requires an understanding of the technology itself and competitor technology and the prior art. It requires an understanding of the case law on very, very esoteric and minute, issues of specific language in the claims. You need to think about it from, an artisan's perspective of how to structure the claims in a way that gives you fallback positions and give you the maximum defensibility, right? There's a lot of world knowledge and human expertise and creativity that goes into claim writing.
Yeah.
So, I think there, at least, for the foreseeable future, I imagine there will always be a very critical human and lawyerly component to claim drafting.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I think so because it's an art. Like you need to define what elements are there. I don't think AI can do that because after analyzing the business only we get to know what should go in an independent claim, what should go in a dependent claim, how the claims need to be structured so that we can safeguard us from infringement, or the patent application is enforceable in nature. If we draft it too narrow, it would not be enforceable. So I think all those aspects attorneys need to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jack, generally looking at the cost benefit analysis for the AI tools currently, do you think MSME market and small businesses are very open to accepting it, or what kind of costs? Like, are they willing to spend on AI tools because they have been doing this work manually since a long, long time? So, are they very open to incorporate AI power tool? Because I think there are some traditional law firms which do not want to switch. Like even if we tell them that there is technology available, they'll say from 50 years we have been doing this work since like this, and in future also we can do this. So do you think you get to listen to these conversations a lot, or is the market very open to acceptance of AI powered tools?
Yeah, no, this is really fascinating because, I think, there is, I've definitely encountered this and I definitely see a component where, many lawyers are, uh, just a little bit embarrassed about letting other people know that they use AI to help them, write legal documents,
Yeah.
and I think it's really just a matter of time before the question is not like, are you using AI tools to like, why aren't you using AI tools,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Uh, and so what I've seen so far with how some of the customers have discovered PatentPal is actually, there's one story where there's, another lawyer at the firm who is somehow producing just an inhumane amount of legal work products, and that gave a signal to another lawyer to really think about it as, something is something is happening there, right? Like it's not possible for humans to be this productive, right? And so like that person actually did a very deep Google search on PatentPal, not on PatentPal, but AI drafting tools in general, and eventually came across PatentPal. And at the time, we're very low on the SEO rankings, right? We're much higher now. But he was very motivated actually to find an AI tool to help him be more productive and be a better, lawyer. So, I think it takes time for this to happen for lawyers to come around to it. Certainly lawyers today are not going around and showing the world, check out, this cool tool that I'm using. But I think at a certain point, that switch will flip over. And I think another thing that often is misunderstood is that really what this product is enabling is not just the savings on cost and efficiency, but it's really opening up new markets that wasn't possible before, right? You mentioned about cost to startups and small, medium-sized enterprises. You know, when I was working at a firm, I remember like trying to bring in new startup clients, and 8 out of 10 startups I spoke to could not afford a fees, right? So if you're a bootstrap startup, if you're early stage pre-seed startup, you're not going to want to pay the price of a car to get a patent on file. You just don't have the budget for it, right? But if what our product is enabling is in the future where law firms can sustainably produce patents at a price point more along the lines of like a price of an iPhone, right? And suddenly this becomes way more affordable, and it's still sustainable and profitable for the firms to service. But all of a sudden, a lot more entrepreneurs, a lot more inventors can have access to the attorney ecosystem, to the IP ecosystem. So, I think this is really enabling this blue ocean market out there, the long tail of this IP market that previously the law firms were not capturing.
Yeah. And listening to all this, I am worried that whether people are going to come to us just for claim drafting. No, you draft the case and we'll do the specs. But I think still a review is required because there are a lot of
Yeah.
additional examples, additional things that we need to mention. We can't, just file the application after it.
Yeah, exactly. Like at the end of the day, I don't think AI tools will replace lawyers. I think that answer is very clearly no. I think really the question is, will AI tools change patent practice as they exist
Yeah.
today? And that is absolutely yes, right? And I think for anyone who is an aspiring patent attorney looking ahead on what career success looks like, they want to be ahead of that technological curve.
Correct. And I think it will be faster. See, from the cost, like if I'm just thinking out loud that if I see that would it help in reduction of cost from the client side? I don't think so. Because even if our time gets reduced, we'll be spending money on purchasing the AI softwares. We'll be
Mm-hmm.
doing the work ourselves. It's not like AI would be writing the software. So I don't think that cost reduction would be there from attorney's point of view. But for in-house teams, like for example, there is a big corporate who has an in-house IP team. For them, there would be a lot of cost reduction as well.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think there will be cost reduction at the firm. It's an interesting equation because like it's reducing cost in the sense of like, certainly what we charge is only a tiny fraction of the value we're creating for the professionals who use our tool. So there is huge amount of cost savings. At the same time, the product is a better product, right? So like it's a little bit counterintuitive because it's like it's cheaper to produce, but at the same time, you're producing better quality products that actually are worth more to the in-house teams,
Yeah.
right? So I think there will be a new equilibrium, and I think like it's an empirical question, really, right? There will be a new equilibrium on what the new price point will be, and maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower, but either way, I think it's really a win-win for everybody.
Correct. Jack, one last question around IP. Do you think that in future, like because AI industry is growing, technology industry is growing, there are, you know, a lot of countries involved in the patent process itself. Then we have PCT, we have Paris Convention, we have TRIPS, we have so many agreements. So, because of growing usage of AI in the industry, AI tools, do you think there are some law, rules, regulation that need to be reformed or that require reformation, probably at harmonization level or something like that? And your views on this?
Yeah, this is a little bit above my pay grade. I'm focused on building great technologies. I have certainly practice experience as a patent attorney. I imagine there will be more standardization, right, as more and more countries enter the international patent system, and that has been a continuous trend. The number of patents being filed in the U.S. in across the world has been very steadily rising. If you look at the past, trend that's happening over the last 10 years, last 20 years, that trend is, very, undeniably clear.
Yeah.
more and more countries are participating in this, right? And if automation can get patents to be more accessible and really democratize access to intellectual property and have more inventors participating in this ecosystem, really, I can only begin to imagine the impact it has on geographies, around the world, outside of the US even, right? So I think, as there is more participation, there will be a convergence towards more standardization in regulations, in formalities, in requirements. But at the same time, from a, technologists and from a legal tech perspective, right? The more formalities there are, the more work there is to be automated, right? So, hopefully we can solve some of that pain point in the meantime as well, right? But,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
That is a great answer. The more things we need to comply with, the more technologists have like more problems to solve.
Right, more mechanical work to automate.
Perfect. So Jack, we now I'll ask some rapid fire questions to you. These are 3, 2, 1 rapid fire questions so that audience get to know you. Answer these questions very quickly. 3 things you are grateful for.
First thing is, my wife. I feel like, a very much underappreciated story is what it's like to be a founder's spouse. Second thing is, the community around me. I am a solo founder, but there is a tremendous amount of people around me, my friends, my advisors, my investors. All of my early customers, who have supported me along the way and made PatentPal to what it is today to make that possible. And finally, like, a personal note, right? If anything, like, just being able to realize the product we have today has been an extremely fulfilling and rewarding journey. And really starting PatentPal, that was my main goal, was be able to, build this thing, that I have come to love, that is really truly my, my baby at the moment. So that's what I'm grateful for right now.
Awesome. Now, 2 traits or habits that you think are useful for a legal career or any professional career.
Yeah, I mean, as my background is as patent attorney, but I think this applies to, all attorneys as well. It's like, and especially for patent attorneys, the first thing is like, being able to combine the curious mind and not abandon that,
Yeah.
and be able to make that work with the very critical legal mind, which is also extremely valuable in legal practice. So the best attorneys in the future are going to be the ones who use the best tools. That has always been true, and they will always be true. I think the second quality is that relentlessness about pursuing client value, right? And that includes using the best tools to do that. But at the end of the day, it's really about like what makes the most sense for the client, what's really going to, create the most value for them, and how can you achieve that, right?
Perfect. And one aspiration you have for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we really think about like where innovation is happening, right? Like, I don't think innovation only happens at big tech companies. I think innovation is everywhere. I think many people around me have great ideas that are potentially patentable. But what we are seeing currently with the patent system is that most of the patents are filed by the big tech companies. So
Correct.
this is not an issue of, innovation. This is an issue of budget, right? So I really see the future aspiration as like, can we really give access to intellectual property to a much wider invention ecosystem, more inventors participating in this, and really fulfilling the promise of the patent system as promoting the useful arts and sciences.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so amazing to listen to this, especially university level students and people who are innovating in knowledge domain. I think they need tools like these so that their process becomes easier and faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Jack, any final thoughts before we conclude this podcast?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be here. I really enjoyed our chat, Priggya. I think, I was reflecting on, kind of talking to, my journey and talking to customers today. And one of the, most common reactions I get is just, people didn't know that this was possible, right? Like, NLP technology is only viable today, only became viable over the last 3 years or so. So it is here. I think like really going to middle of next year, we're going to see a very sudden shift in the adoption of artificial intelligence in the practice of patent drafting and also legal writing overall.
Absolutely. I am on you on this. There would be a shift, and a lot of people will be using these tools. I think similar thing happened in searching softwares also. Now every law firm has a patent search softwares, and now it's turn to switch to patent drafting too.
That's right. Yeah.
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 So, Jack, thank you so much for your time and your willingness to share. I wish you all the very best, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Priggya. It's been a pleasure.
Hey there, thank you for attending today's session. If you enjoyed today's session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.